YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with some more NFL free agency signing predictions. We have two recent videos just like this predicting where free agents will sign. So if you're looking for a specific free agent, either this one or the more recent videos, we have loads of content out there. So check it out. Like, subscribe to notifications. I will be grading every free agency signing in several videos throughout free agency that we do every single year. Cannot wait for that. Can't wait for it to start. We're only 2 days away. Hopefully you can join us. Make sure you join us on Twitter. Live news, rumors, updates there. The breaking news, instant analysis, final predictions on there. Twitter subs get even more content. Link pinned in the comments for that, as well as our Discord, as well as our sponsors, Walk the Mock, Liquid IV, and GLD Shop, which I'm wearing their Micah Parsons chain, which he wears every single NFL game. So they have a lot of cool NFL stuff like this. Some sick jewelry, code GOAT. Check it out. Links pinned in the comments. So the third video here, full of free agency predictions starting with a big one here. Odell Beckham Jr., who just had his workout yesterday. Hearing good things. Looked like he looked really good shape. A lot healthier than he was, obviously, a year ago. And right now I'm going to predict, I'm feeling the Vikings here for Odell Beckham Jr. for multiple reasons. They were at his workout. About 11 teams were there. So that's one. Kevin O'Connell coached him when he was on the Rams. They won the Super Bowl. They just cut Adam Thielen. They're going to be looking for a replacement, another receiver. So there's a lot of reasons Odell Beckham Jr. makes sense. I guess it's going to depend how much he's requesting in terms of the contract, how many years he's looking for. But right now I'm feeling the Vikings. They make there's more reasons to pick them right now. But I do like the Bills a lot. Maybe he wants a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. But I did think they proved that they could be productive in the passing game enough to appeal to Odell Beckham Jr. But Bills, maybe having a guy like Josh Allen, playing with a guy like Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, putting Odell in the slot maybe. I thought made some sense. They might be looking for another veteran receiver. Chiefs, if he wants to play with Mahomes, they're always looking for ways to get better. The Cowboys were actually not at his workout, but they've been linked to him pretty much this whole way. It felt like they were going to sign him until he failed his physical at the end of last year. Now he's healthy, so we'll see. Could go back to the Giants, the Patriots as well. There were more teams that were at his workout. These are the ones I viewed as the top landing spots. At the moment, feeling the Vikings for all those reasons. Kevin O'Connell, need at receiver. They just cut Adam Thielen. I keep hearing they're looking to add a receiver too. They're kind of going to make maybe a splash move there, so we'll see. That's a big one, though, so heard some good things off that workout. So speaking of the Vikings and them just cutting Adam Thielen, let's talk about him. This one's 50-50 for me. There's other legit landing spots that I could see for sure, but I really am feeling the top two teams here. Originally was going to pick the Browns. My original thought instantly when I heard Adam Thielen could be cut. Now he's actually cut. So a new free agent here. But the Browns, in need of a receiver, a guy that could play in the slot, here and there, obviously. They have Kevin Stefanski, who was the offensive coordinator for Adam Thielen in Minnesota for a bit. So he's familiar with him. Thielen's familiar with him, with Stefanski, and need a receiver, clearing some space. It makes some sense there. It makes a lot of sense. I keep hearing they're going to look for specifically speed at the receiver position, though. Thielen used to be really fast, maybe declining a little bit. So it's tough, but I can definitely see it. But I'm going to go with the Bills. I think they'll be in on the veteran receivers. I don't think they want to spend crazy big. I know fans maybe want them to. This one could actually sit for a bit. Thielen could sit around for a little bit, maybe not get as much as he really plans on getting, right away, perhaps. I could be wrong, but so maybe he sits around for a little bit. The Bills get him, and they pair him back up with Stephon Diggs. I think that makes a lot of sense. So I actually think the Bills, some of the guys being cut or rumored to be cut by the Vikings kind of fit with the Bills, in my opinion. I don't know. So, but here's definitely one. And there's other teams that can land on for sure, but I'm really, the Bills and the Browns are pulling away from everyone else for me. Another receiver to talk about here, Mecole Hardman, which is a tough one to predict. This is kind of one guy to, be a little cautious with, beware a little bit because he had that injury last year. He worked so well in that Chiefs offense with some gadget plays, and because of his speed, is he a guy that's going to work at nearly as good elsewhere? So it depends on the price and if it's a good deal or not. I guess that goes for anyone. But tough to figure out. But I heard yesterday there's a lot of teams already showing interest, and he is a big-time playmaker, and has that speed, obviously. I'm going to go with the Packers. I talk about Mecole Hardman's a tough guy to predict where he'll go. I think the Packers are a tough team to predict for free agency. Like, what are they going to focus on? I could see them, because most teams I know, like, they want multiple things, but mainly they're really going to dive in at this one thing or this one or two things, positions. Packers, I can't really. We can take guesses, but I don't really know for sure. Other teams I really know for sure. So they're a little tricky, but I could see them adding a guy like that and then using him in the slot a bit, maybe adding a lot more speed and guys that can get the separation for the, Jordan Love, who does have a strong arm there. And I'll put the Browns as the next guess as well. They're looking for speed at the receiver position, so this could be a guy they could be looking to add here. I think it's a legit landing spot. The Panthers need a guy like this. They just traded DJ Moore, obviously not in DJ Moore's level, but I could definitely see Hardman to the Panthers. I can see him fitting with the Ravens. The Bills and Giants are some options as well. But he's a tricky one. Not going to surprise me if a team I did not list signs him at all, unlike most of the other guys there. There will be surprises. That's what makes it great. But yeah, a tricky one to figure out. Packers been really tricky to figure out. Like, who do I have the Packers getting? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Where are they going to put their focus on? But Hardman's a guy to watch for sure. I can equally, argue the Browns or the Panthers, teams like that, the Ravens perhaps. Ravens are tricky too because, focus on Lamar. Maybe won't know if they'll have him back for sure or not right away. So that is a little tricky. DJ Chark I like for the Panthers. I actually liked him for the Panthers before they traded DJ Moore in that draft trade yesterday. Definitely looking for another receiver. Now even more receivers, and I think they can kind of solve that issue in this offseason, perhaps. Chark could be what maybe they wanted in like a Robbie Anderson, I should say Chosen Anderson, outside speed receiver. You got a younger, just a better one here in DJ Chark, and this could definitely help their first overall quarterback that they'll pick. Well, I think it would be C.J. Stroud, but either way, this would help that guy. And I got the Browns again, next guess. They're looking for speed. Here's a guy for them that they possibly could be in on. I think he definitely can go back to Detroit. They signed him for a reason, but feels like Jameson Williams is their plan for the replacement there. I could see the Cowboys, adding some speed on the outside, if they don't trade for like a Brandon Cooks or whoever it may be. Titans and Ravens are teams that could be looking for a guy like DJ Chark. So the Panthers, I have doing some work here in this video with some of these guys. Another receiver, Paris Campbell, I have going to the Panthers. So I think they're going to be, they traded away DJ Moore. They cleared some space. They got some, they got the first overall pick to get a quarterback. And they could replace DJ Moore with a collection of different type of guys here. But something in common from, Chark and Campbell, they have some speed, but Campbell, you can use, Chark's an outside, downfield guy. Campbell, you can use in multiple different ways. Familiar with Frank Reich's offense. Reich familiar with him. I think he'll like him a lot. So I definitely think this is one that could happen here and get a collection of receivers in there to kind of replace DJ Moore, because you're not going to be able to get a DJ Moore level guy, so we need to get multiple guys at multiple different spots. Ravens make some sense as well, because I don't think the Ravens are going to be spending big at the position, and Campbell shouldn't be too expensive, so I could see the Ravens, and then some other teams. I can see them going back to the Colts. A pretty good ball player here in Young. It's just durability has been the issue. With a guy like that. But some other teams that I definitely could see there for Paris Campbell. So we said back-to-back receivers going to the Panthers. We're not done with the Panthers yet. This one's kind of a gut feeling, a little bold. Mike Gesicki, tight end from the Dolphins, who was a little underwhelming. Had some touchdowns, but where he did his botched gritty, but a little underwhelming this year. Just didn't really fit Mike McDaniel's scheme. Before that, he looked like one of the best, move tight ends in football. I think he could get back on track. Now, the Panthers, why this is bold is because the Panthers have some tight ends already. They have, Ian Thomas. They have Tommy Tremble. I like the upside of some of these guys here, but they don't have Mike Gesicki. It just feels like a Frank Reich guy to me. I don't know. It just feels like a Frank Reich guy, a receiving type tight end. So like I said, they clear space with DJ Moore. There's no finding another DJ Moore this offseason. Let's replace him with a bunch of weapons that can play a bunch of different spots. Because, again, DJ Moore could play multiple different spots, too, as a receiver. So they add a couple decent, speedy receivers, and they add a pretty good tight end here, and that will give that offense some weapons. So I do like the fit. I like the Chargers a lot. I just have them, last video, I have them in on, I don't know why I was about to say that, Dalton Schultz. I was like saying Deshaun, like mixing Dalton and Schultz together, and it equals Deshaun, apparently. But Dalton Schultz, the Cowboys tight end. So if they miss on him, watch out for Gesicki for the Chargers. So kind of like a domino effect. If the Dalton Schultz is first, We'll see who gets him, and that could kind of play a part in where Gesicki goes. And honestly, Schultz has been better than Gesicki, but Gesicki, at any given time could be better than Schultz. It's a possibility. Dallas, and that's kind of where it comes into play here. Dallas could let Schultz walk because too expensive. Gesicki could end up being cheaper because he had an off year last year, but he can be maybe more productive for the Cowboys than Schultz was. Texans, Lions, and Bengals, I think, are other options as well. It'd be scary on the Bengals with those weapons. And you thought we were done with the Panthers. I'm not actually done. This is the other side of the ball, though. I'm sending Leonard Floyd their way as well. I was actually going to go Chargers, and I'm glad it happened. Perfect timing. This morning, Khalil Mack, the Chargers restructure his deal, push some money back on that deal. That usually means he's sticking around on that team. So I was kind of wondering if they're going to cut Mack perhaps, and then they would definitely. I would love Floyd to the Chargers then, because familiar with Brandon Staley's defense. But right now they have Bosa and they have Mack, but they could be looking for another guy. Maybe they had Van Noy out there last year. Mack's probably not going to last maybe more than 1 year for them, so they could still get Floyd, a good fit. Familiar with Brandon Staley and his defense. But I'm going to go with the Panthers. They need another pass rusher. They're kind of shifting to more of a 3-4, which Brian Burns will still fit, but they need another pass rusher opposite of him. They needed one last year even as well. And they got a Giro Evero over there on the Panthers now, which he has a LA Rams background. Obviously was on the staff over there coaching Leonard Floyd. So that makes a ton of sense to me. So Panthers could be that sneaky team that goes a little big here in free agency. We just had a series of players that I think makes sense. Are they going to get every single one of these guys? I'm confident in my predictions. I think I do a pretty good job at them, but probably not. They're not going to be 100% accurate here, but these are guys to keep an eye out for. I like the Seahawks as well. I think a pretty good fit, and they're looking for another pass rusher. So Seahawks are another team to watch. And the Chargers, I think, still possible. I think a good fit with the Titans. They moved on from Bud Dupree. The Ravens and the Vikings, if they move on from Zadarius Smith, I like Floyd as a replacement. I just mentioned Bud Dupree. The Titans moved on. Bud Dupree, another one that kind of could replace Zadarius Smith, perhaps, if that's the case. All right, we're done with the Panthers. For now, maybe not. Byron Murphy, I got. This is a tough one to predict, too. I'm kind of like even with several teams here. I'm going to go with Dolphins. Dolphins cleared a lot of space. They're tough to predict, too, on who specifically they will land. I think they'll be attacking corners, maybe a right tackle, but they spent so much at left tackle last year that they wanted to break the bank with right tackle, both tackle spots. So they're a little tricky. What are they going to do with running back? They might not want to spend too much, but they could look to get better there. Could they add another inside linebacker? Some talk about them adding Jordan Poyer, but I like their safety duo already, if healthy. Jones was hurt last year, but corner is something they should go after. And Byron Murphy's been getting some hype. And the more and more I think about him, the more he could be one that gets overpaid. But the more and more I think about him, the more I like it because he's still very, very young, still with a lot of upsides. A guy that can play outside corner or slot corner. And the Dolphins could look to get a guy like that and kind of could fit a Vic Fangio. It just feels like a Vic Fangio corner. You can get the most out of him. I've heard the Cardinals are looking to bring him back possibly, but maybe could bring in corners that fit Gannon and maybe a little bit better. James Bradbury perhaps. But the Cardinals could get him back. I like the Lions. Lions looking for a corner. They might spend big. I could definitely see the Lions. I could see the Vikings. They're looking for corners. Falcons as well. We've talked about that. I like the fit with the Jags. His inside-outside versatility. This, every free agent is different throughout these videos. I've had all right, I really like this prediction, or I like the top two teams kind of 50-50, or it's kind of these three teams split evenly. This one is kind of Dolphins, Cardinals, Lions, Vikings, and the Falcons, if they miss out on somebody else. So this is a tricky one here, but I do like the Dolphins right now for Byron Murphy, who's one of those guys that can get paid a little bit more than you think. Another corner, Cam Sutton. I'm going to say going back to the Steelers. They've been working on a deal for a few weeks now. But that's a little interesting that nothing's happened here. So maybe he tests free. It feels like it right now. Test free agency and could go elsewhere. Brian Flores, defense coordinator now with the Vikings, who was on the staff with the Steelers last year, could make some sense. Sutton played a lot of man coverage under Tomlin. He could do the same under Flores. With the Vikings are desperate need of corners there, so that makes a lot of sense actually. But I get the feeling that he goes back to the Steelers. But the Vikings are a serious team to watch out for. Some of the same teams, you could fit the Lions for sure, but you see some Dolphins, Falcons, Giants makes some sense to me. I mean, you could even go Patriots, 49ers, teams like that make some sense. But as of right now, going back to the Steelers, but the Vikings and Flores, I think will be after a guy like Cam Sutton, who's pretty versatile as well. He can play outside corner, can play inside, he can play safety throughout his career as well. Even going back to the Tennessee Volunteers days there. So interesting. Probably an underrated free agent here. Next, Marcus Peters. I like this one. I like Marcus Peters going to the Giants. They need another corner. They run man coverage. Peters familiar. He's experienced in man coverage. He's experienced with that specific defensive coordinator. Played under Don Martindale for several years there in Baltimore. So a lot of reasons that makes sense there. So I'm going to go Peters to the Giants. I do like the Raiders. Looking for a corner as well. I could see them going younger route, though. More I'm thinking about it. But I do like the fit. Patriots, if he's a little on the cheaper side. Dolphins, Cowboys, Steelers, some good scheme fits there. Those teams like to run a bit of man coverage, too. So, but I like the Giants for Marcus Peters. I really like that one. Really good fit. Makes a lot of sense. You got that connection there at Martindale for Peters. Kaleb McGary. Kaleb McGary is my ultimate beware. Beware of this free agent. He's my number one on that list. And he's really tough to figure out where he's going to go. I think we got to wait and see where other right tackles are going to go first. But I'm afraid a team's going to overpay a guy like Kaleb McGary. A year ago, the Falcons declined his fifth-year option, which was just over $13 million. There was a reason for that because he was either injured or playing kind of bad before that. This year, he played pretty decent. Felt like they had other guys playing better than expected as well. Maybe it's a scheme thing over there. Maybe the Falcons feel like they could replace him, perhaps. But it's a guy I worry about. Again, that option was declined around $13 million. That's kind of where I would pay him, even though he had a decent year. I'd probably pay around that range, but I'm kind of worried he's going to get that 15, 16. Could he get more than that? Oh, I'm scared. I'm scared about that. So I'd be careful with a guy like this. It's just tough to figure out where he's going to go to. Again, it really depends on what happens with McGlinchey, Jawan Taylor, guys like that at the right tackle position. But maybe some talk about McGary playing left perhaps as well. But I'll going back to the Falcons. At the same time, I think the Falcons probably believe they can replace him for cheaper, but they have the cap space. Other teams might be focused on the other right tackle, so they might just be able to get McGary back right away. I'll go Titans. There's been some buzz on that. I don't really love it, though, because I like Nicholas Petit-Frere at right tackle, so that would mean McGary to left tackle or Nicholas Petit-Frere to left tackle, But I've heard some buzz on that. Maybe switching somebody's position there. So the Titans, and I have, they could be in on Orlando Brown Jr., but they could be missing on some of those top guys. The Broncos is an interesting one because I have the Broncos listed third. But if they miss on McGlinchey, who I had them getting, I'd seriously look at Kaleb McGary. If free agency is live, like we're going, McGlinchey signs with somebody else, other than the Broncos right away, and the Falcons didn't do anything with McGary yet, my prediction changes to the Broncos for Kaleb McGary instantly. So even though they're listed third, they, boom, just like that, could be just up at that one spot. So watch out for the Broncos. The Bears, I like Jawan Taylor for them. McGlinchey could be McGlinchey and McGary. McGlinchey could be second. McGary could be third, possibly. The Bears, they're a little dangerous having that much cap space. You don't want to overpay for guys like this, and this is the ultimate guy too. Like this, I'm scared when it comes to a guy like Kaleb McGary. It's probably, if I'm a GM, it's probably a guy I'm staying away from, to be honest. Unless the price is normal. Jets, Dolphins, Bengals, some teams that could use a right tackle. The Bengals are also tricky to figure out what they're going to do. They need more linemen. They spent a bit in free agency last free agency on offensive lineman. Do they do it again? Some talk about them cutting Leo Collins. They didn't do that yet. They're probably going to insist on Jonah Williams like they always do. Do they let other guys walk? They have spending money. They're really tricky. I mean, they can make this I predict them to win the next Super Bowl. They can make it a sure thing, not a sure thing, but the favorites themselves, the favorites, if they do some damage, they're just really hard to predict on what they'll do here. The Bengals, that is. But McGary, I think what we learned from this is be careful with the guy like this. Be very careful. I'd say Mecole Hardman's kind of in that conversation, but not quite as bad there. And bad, I don't mean talent-wise. Like all these guys are talented. Nate Davis, we talked about the Titans a little bit in their offensive line situation. It just sounds like I would think the Titans would like to bring him back. Still young, was pretty good for them, but from what I've heard, it sounds like he's likely to go elsewhere. I still leave them up for discussion in a possible landing spot. I'm going to go Cardinals for Nate Davis, though. They need guards. Not a guard. They need guards. And I think they want to get young. I think they want to stay young, build around Kyler Murray. So Nate Davis makes a lot of sense. The guard group in free agency isn't that good. I think Nate Davis is one of the better ones, has some upside still. They can plug him in at either spot, either guard spot. It makes sense to me. They have spending money. Another connection, Monty Ossenfort is the Cardinals general manager. They got him from on the front office staff of the Tennessee Titans. So that actually makes some sense there too. So it's like all kind of coming together here. I do really like the fit in Bieniemy's offense though at the Commanders, and they need a guard. They definitely need a guard over there. I like the fit a lot there. So that they make sense. He fits Josh McDaniels' offense. They're looking for another guard perhaps. It could go back to the Titans. Seattle recently cut Gabe Jackson. They have spending money. I think he could fit that. I think he fits the Bills. They brought in Roger Saffold last year from the Titans, so they'll know Nate Davis fits as well. Perhaps. Maybe they're looking for more of that left side, though, perhaps. But I think usually these guys can play either side. Cardinals make the most sense. I really like some of these other spots. As you can tell, though, the Commanders made a good amount of sense as well. That is an interesting one. Maybe the top guard in free agency. It's debatable, I guess, some of these guys. But Isaac Seumalo of the Eagles with the best offensive line in football. This one's a little tricky, though, because the Eagles' offensive line is coached so well, and they're just so damn talented that you almost feel like the Eagles, whoever they put in there, he's just going to be just as good. And is it going to be as easy for Seumalo elsewhere? Probably not. So that's why it's a little scary, but I still think he's a good enough guard. He's definitely going to help a team. And he could go back to the Eagles, but I feel like the Eagles can save money and just they're so good at developing. And it would be smart. It would be, either it's a win-win. Like, get Seumalo back and keep the offensive line together. Let him go and just you have a young guy step up. Like, they're fine. They're going to be fine there. So you save money, perhaps. I'm going to go Colts. And there's a connection there. Steichen, the offensive coordinator of the Eagles, going over to the Colts. They're going to need that. They're going to need one more guard opposite of Quentin Nelson in there. I like Seumalo as a fit. Colts are usually a little quiet in free agency. This could be their splash move, perhaps, or maybe they change things. But yeah, I'll go Colts. It could still go back to the Eagles and some other guard needy teams that he could fit. I like those fits for all those teams I have listed down there. But the Colts definitely make the most sense here. Another guard that I like that I didn't end up talking about in this video is Ben Powers. I think he goes back to the Ravens. I do like the Bills as a fit there as well. Kareem Hunt, I'm going to go Broncos. Somewhat of an underrated all of a sudden running back of free agency because he was behind one of the very best in football, Nick Chubb, but Kareem Hunt is a legit running back that can not only run the ball, but he can catch the ball very well as well. I like the Broncos for him. They're looking for a starting caliber back because Javonte Williams is set to miss some time. So this kind of makes sense. A guy that's a starting caliber back, but that also has been part of like a 1-2 punch. So when Williams comes back, you got this guy Hunt that could be part of that. And he's a pass-catching guy as well. That's fantastic. So I like the fit in Sean Payton's offense. So I do like the Broncos for Kareem Hunt. I like the Eagles a lot, the trade deadline. There was some talk about teams calling about Hunt. There was talk about the Browns trading Hunt, him wanting to be traded. I really felt like the Eagles made sense in their Super Bowl run. It didn't happen, but maybe it could happen with Miles Sanders as a free agent. And Miles Sanders is another guy I did not include in this video. He's a little tricky to figure out where he's going to go. Another guy, he might sit for a little bit. But I could see Hunt to the Eagles, Bills, Dolphins, Bears, Patriots, other teams I thought of. The Bills, I think it's kind of a 3-man, maybe 4 with the Broncos, Eagles, Bills, and then the Dolphins being that 4-man race here. But I do really like the Broncos for Kareem Hunt. David Montgomery, I love the Chargers. In terms of fit, I actually really like the Ravens. I think he fits that scheme pretty damn well. They might go a little cheaper when it comes to running back because they do have some good backs. There's just some durability issues, but I do love the scheme fit for the Ravens. But I love the fit with the Chargers as well. It makes a lot of sense to me. They're going to be looking for another running back to pair with Eckler. Kellen Moore is going to value running the football. That was kind of their issue last year. They weren't running the ball enough. Specifically, they weren't running the ball enough inside. Eckler's fantastic. He's not a guy that's going to handle a load on the inside the tackles, inside runs. X amount of times a game. So you go get a physical guy in David Montgomery. I think that's I think they complement each other very well, like a good pairing, and Austin Eckler and David Montgomery. So I like that fit with the Chargers there. Eagles, Broncos, Dolphins, Cowboys, Saints, other teams that come to mind that could use another back. I don't think he goes back to the Bears. I was kind of thinking that during all of last year. They switched their running scheme up a little bit. I know he missed some games, but I don't think he failed. A lot of the time, it looked like Khalil Herbert was better than Montgomery. Is Herbert more talented than Montgomery? No, Montgomery's more talented, but in that specific scheme, that's why it looked like that. So it makes sense for them to move on from Montgomery here. So I like the Chargers, though. I do like the Chargers for the reasons I explained. And it's kind of a random prediction. Damien Harris, who 2 years ago was fantastic, last year was beat up. Ramondre Stevenson kind of took over. I like the Ravens, and the Ravens are sneaky when looking for another running back here. I know they have a number of running backs, but some durability issues, guys that just can't take over as that guy. I think it's a really good scheme fit with the Ravens. Patriots don't usually bring these guys back, but they're kind of going back to what they know in terms of their offense. They kind of tweaked things a little bit, ran a different style last year, but bring a familiar face back with Bill O'Brien. So Harris was just so good in the normal Patriot scheme like 2 years ago. So I leave it open here that he could return. And then some other teams I could see him fitting. If the Chargers don't get Montgomery, maybe Damien Harris, guy like that. Cowboys could move on from Zeke, so they could be looking for guys like this. So could definitely see it. Next, Bobby Okereke. I'm 50-50 with this one. I really feel like he's either going back to the Colts or he's going to the Chicago Bears. And Matt Eberflus happens to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears, who was his defense coordinator while he was playing very, very well for us. So I'm going to go with that. The Bears have a bit of money to spend. He's a guy I do wonder, could he get overpaid too? He's a pretty good linebacker, going to play that weak side role. Because I heard there's a lot of teams interested. I heard some numbers thrown out there that just sound like too much. I know Spotrac has his value at like just over $2 million, which is ridiculously low. He's going to get way more than that. But I think it'll be a battle between the Bears and the Colts, and the Bears will probably outbid the Colts. So I'm going to predict him going back to Eberflus's defense there, but in a different place, Chicago Bears there. So pair him with Jack Sanborn in that linebacker group there. And the Colts had some guys step up last year, and they'll get Darius Leonard back. Shaq Leonard, excuse me. Jets, I like the fit in Salah's defense. The Texans, I could see. The Eagles replace an upgrade from Kaiser White. And the Commanders and Rivera's defense. Those are really good fits. I just really feel like it's going to be Bears or Colts, but those other ones are really good fits there. That's a guy that, like I said, Spotrac's usually good with their valuation. I noticed that the other day they had $2 million on him. I think he's going to get a lot more than that. I've heard numbers thrown out there that just sounded ridiculous, though, like $12 million and over. It just sounds insane. Like, to me, it's like around that 8 range, maybe. So kind of in the middle of those two numbers, I guess more so the higher one. So that's now I'm curious because just how all over the place everyone is with that one on the market evaluation there. Next, Shaquille Griffin, the former Seahawks corner who was with the Jags last year. I got him going back to the Seahawks, looking for another. They could use one more corner there opposite Tariq Woolen. They have some other young, solid players as well. But and I think he's a scheme fit. When we know he's a scheme fit, they're running. They're still running. They switched some things up on defense, but they're still running zone over there. We'll see a bit of cover 3, cover 2 as well. So he definitely fits. He should be a little cheaper. They probably wanted him back when he was a free agent a couple years ago, but the price was just too high. The price is definitely going to come down now. So I do like the Seahawks. I have the Falcons landing Jamel Dean. If they don't land Dean, I do like the fit of Griffin and some other corners. But Dean should be gone right away. Griffin could sit around for a little bit. So if Dean's gone and the Falcons didn't get him, they might jump in a guy like this, and he could go off the board a little earlier than expected. Some other cornerback needy teams that I could see, maybe, Griffin's he's got some experience with different type of coverages. I do prefer him zone, perhaps, but we'll see. It's kind of another newer free agent because he was cut. Marcus Golden was cut just yesterday, actually. The Cardinals only freed like $3 million doing that, so was that worth it? But they are switching schemes and maybe getting younger. I like the Broncos for him. They can use one more pass rusher. It doesn't need to be the best pass rusher in the world, but a guy with starting experience, a solid guy, because they have Randy Gregory. They got Baron Browning, who's a unique type player. Nick Benito, same thing, versatile type player. So Golden makes some sense there. and the type of talent player that they're looking for. And they also have Vance Joseph, who was the Cardinals defensive coordinator, which he liked Golden a lot. So there's the connection on top of all that. So that makes a lot of sense. Could be a Bud Dupree replacement for the Tennessee Titans. I could see that fit for sure. Seattle as well. Could see that. Carolina looking for another guy. The Packers in that rotation. Or the Browns. More likely the other teams, though. But I do like the Broncos for Marcus Golden. Bud Dupree is the guy. Yeah, the Titans cut him, so they're looking for a replacement. I didn't include in these videos. He's a tough one to predict. I was kind of leading Seattle, but it's not one I had a firm prediction for. But I like how I'm mentioning guys I don't even have in this video. That's what you get here. Jermaine Pratt, who I think actually ended up being underrated. I think he's a phenomenal linebacker. Just continues to get better. I think the Bengals should get him back, and I'm going to predict them to get him back. They have the spending money. Again, the Bengals are really I said the Packers are tough to figure out what they're going to do. The Bengals are really tough to figure out what they're going to do in free agency. I don't know what they're going to focus on. They spent on offensive line last year. You know, it wasn't the best offensive lineman, but it was solid, decent offensive lineman. Are they going to spend like that again? They need to, but are they going to do it? Are they going to insist on Jonah Williams? Are they going to bring back Pratt? I think they will. Are they going to bring back Bates? I don't think they will. They're going to bring back Von Bell, who I did not include in this video either. I think they'll bring back Von Bell, but I'm not firm on that. They're tricky to figure out what they're going to focus on. But I think they got to bring back Pratt there. But I do really, really like him for that Lions defense. I think it's somebody the Lions could show interest in. A guy that can kind of be a part of like that young core that's ready to win now. It just makes a lot of sense there. So if the Bengals don't get him, watch out for those Detroit Lions there. Like to fit with the Raiders, the Texans, the Falcons, and the Browns as well on the inside for them. I like him as a 4-3 inside guy. Wouldn't be thrilled if he went to a 3-4 team. Maybe they can make it work. But linebackers, when you switch the scheme for them, most of the time it's bad. Make an exception. I've said I like Tremaine Edmonds switching. I like him going to a 3-4 playing inside, but I still like him in 4-3 inside as well. But that was the first video of these a few days ago. But yeah, Pratt back to the Bengals. But the Bengals, I'm very curious about what they're going to do here. Andre Dillard, I can see the Bengals landing him because he might not be as expensive as the other guys, and it's like he can back up Jonah Williams at left, he can start at right, or back up Collins at right, could start at left, back up both because he has experience as a starter and a backup. He was a first-round pick, but just hasn't really lived up to the hype, but he's also behind a bunch of studs on the Eagles, maybe the best tackle duo in football. I'm going to go Titans. Titans are, I know what they're after. They're after offensive line, but it's tough to actually peg somebody to them. I think they'll be all in on Orlando Brown Jr. I got a feeling he goes back to the Chiefs or could go to the Patriots. I think Dillard makes sense for their retool or whatever they're going to do. He could play left or right for them. But I could see the Bengals as well. I could see the Colts Steichen over there. Could be looking for a left tackle. Maybe more likely to ride it out with Ryman, who they drafted last year. But a third-round pick. There's no attachment in the third-round pick there. But more likely to do that. Could go back to the Eagles, Patriots, Jets, Broncos. It's gonna start with Orlando Brown Jr. Where's he gonna go to play the left tackle position? Then you're looking at some of the right tackles, Juwan Taylor, McGlinchey. Then you're kind of looking at Kaleb McGary, and then maybe Donovan Smith. And then you're looking at a guy like Andre Dillard. Did I miss somebody in there? Probably, but there's a few other ones. So it's kind of like a domino effect. This guy go there. Maybe that's a surprise. All right, so that team we thought would get that guy is going to get this guy. Changes everything up. So with these tackles. So that's probably going to be the most intriguing thing of the free agency, I'd say. Probably the tackles. Defensive line, interior defensive line looks pretty good. Edge, not so much. But next, Juju Smith-Schuster. I almost didn't even include this one because I like him going back to the Chiefs, but it is kind of a big-time free agent, so we had to talk about him a little bit. But I think he goes back to the Chiefs. I could see the Packers going after him as well. To supply Jordan Love with some talent. Could actually see him go back to Steelers because he plays the slot. They got rid of Claypool because they were trying to force him to play the slot because him and Pickens are both the same type of receiver, and they like Pickens better, and he's younger, more upside. So actually go get the slot that played slot for you. It makes some sense to me. Could see the Patriots. The Panthers need some guys because they lost DJ Moore. Ravens probably going to be too expensive for them. Maybe the Vikings to replace Adam Thielen. So some teams make sense. I like him going back to the Chiefs, though. It was big in that Super Bowl. The second half of the Super Bowl was big in that comeback to win that thing. So, yeah. Ravens. Who the hell is the Ravens going to get at receiver? They're in a tricky spot because the Lamar Jackson situation. I mean, it's kind of a good situation. It can kind of bring the price down, and they can let the teams do the work for them, and they can match the offers. But at the same time, again, the legal tampering period opens up Monday, where teams pretty much agree with guys, but guys in the franchise tag can't start talking to teams to Wednesday, till Wednesday the 15th. So the Ravens really won't know right away. And they have an idea they'll get him back, but they really won't know, like, how much do we know, even if they know they're getting him back, like, how much do we have to spend on this guy? How much is he going to cost? How are we going to structure this contract? That's the tough part here. So, and is he going to be playing on the franchise tag? If he is, and that full price is a full charge this year, which means we can't really do anything. We can't do much of anything this year. So they really don't want the franchise tag to stay a factor. So it's a tricky spot, which they need receivers badly. They're going to start valuing receivers a little bit more, but they can't really spend big. And then Slayton's been a trade target for candidate for some years now, it feels like. And I always kind of think, the Ravens kind of make sense. So bound to happen now, right? They're kind of probably looking for decent, cheaper receivers because they almost have to. I like the fit. They're always looking for speed. I think they like Duvernay on the inside, and then Bateman's a guy that can play outside and inside. He actually played pretty well in Minnesota Gophers on the inside. So looking for an outside guy with some speed. Slayton makes some sense there. Again, not overly expensive. And I keep pegging the Browns as next guess for some of these speedster on the outside or even inside guys, because I keep hearing that's what they're looking for. But I do like the Ravens for Darius Slayton. A tricky spot they are in this offseason. Patriots, Panthers, Giants, Vikings are teams that could look at Slayton as well. Do the Giants get him back? He was like weird. Like, it was all something, like, there was a few times where, like, some weeks or portions of the year where it's like, that guy's legit. When he first broke out a few years ago, it was like, yeah, he's legit. And we saw it in the middle of this year, and then he kind of disappears, and Isaiah Hodgins ends up better than him. Like, it's a little weird what's going on. So I don't know if he goes back to the Giants, but he's showing the moments there. And then one more. Let's end it with the quarterback that I have a firm prediction on, and that's Drew Lock. I've talked about this in the past. I think other people talked about it. The Bucs are kind of, they're going to go in some sort of rebuild, retool mode. They're going to see what they can get. Because Drew Lock, you got to think, has some upside still. Can't be super confident in him hitting that, but and they hired the Seahawks quarterback coach, his offense coordinator. So bring Locke in, battling out with Trask. You got some young guys, see what they're all about. Just prepare for the future there. So that makes sense. And the Seahawks would like to have him back as a backup to Geno Smith. I think it's a possibility. And then some other teams I thought of there that could bring him in as a backup or compete for a starting spot. Not all those teams, but some of those teams, mainly a backup on a couple of those. But I like the Bucs. I had a firm prediction on that, so I threw this one in here as well. So we went through a lot of free agents. Of course, I just could not get to every single one. Throughout this video, I tried to talk about other ones that I weren't going to have on here. If I didn't talk about a guy I don't have a firm prediction, I just don't feel great about, or it's obvious. Myself and a lot of people think that player's going back to their team. There's going to be a lot of that. A lot of these guys probably could end up going back. You try to predict them going elsewhere. But we usually do pretty well with some of these predictions, so hopefully that continues to be. I also like to be surprised, though. I like the entertainment. Like, wow, that team signed that guy to how much? This the steal or overpay. I like the entertainment, the surprises. So we always get that with the signings, the trades. So it makes the NFL offseason so much fun here. So really excited about it. Go to over our channel. We have a bunch of recent videos covering not only free agency, but the NFL draft. Our most recent mock draft still works because we had the Panthers trading up to that first pick, actually. We got the full NFL coverage here. And if you're not following our Twitter, you're missing out because there's even more there. Maybe some final predictions, last second thoughts. I updated another mock draft actually on there. It's like a graphic form, but simulator. But yeah, go check it out. Links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.